everyone. On behalf of the Pittsburgh Foundation, the Forbes Fund's Board of Directors, the extended philanthropic family of supporters, and the staff of the Forbes Funds, we thank you for being on this call, and we pray that you and your families have been safe and healthy. And for those of you having any family trials and tribulations, our prayers are with you. Since the beginning of COVID-19, the Forbes Funds has conducted 606 Zoom meetings and interfacing with 9,275 people. This work has led us to explore how we can do it differently. And so we always want to honor the fallen citizens in the US and the world. We honor their lives, their contributions, their humanity, their sacrifices that are showing us the way, the light that they provide as a result of their sacrifice that gives us a brighter future. And we want to address the assaults on their humanity and support institutions and organizations like Black Lives Matter and other grassroots efforts that seek to create racial justice and harmony. There are four critical things I think we should always be aware of when we talk. Over the next 29 and a half months, or years, in the next 29 and a half years, we have four critical flashpoints. 2020, climate change. 2030, the minority becomes the majority in the US. 2040, 70% of the world's population will move towards the urban corridor and the continuous divide between economic inequality. Today's conversation will focus on dialectic analysis versus didactic analysis. And I'll say that again, dialectic analysis versus didactic analysis. And I'll start off by saying carpe diem, Latin for seize the moment. I want everybody on the call to resonate and think about what does a leader's vision, where does a leader's vision come from? And for me, it starts with the inner voice. Are you a person that's living your mission? And if you are, does your work reflect that deeper part of your essence and being? And so for the past 30 months, when I took over the Forbes Funds, my inner vision for applying for the job was about creating a better or different nonprofit sector that worked more harmoniously together as a result of strategic alignment, collaborations, and supporting staff operations. And so we sought to be more inclusive, equitable, transparent, and iterative as a thought partner. I gave that vision to my board. They supported that vision and hired me. My first 100 days on the job, I had 1,000 face-to-face conversations with grassroots leaders, citizens, small businesses, corporations, educational institutions, and philanthropy. What we created as a result of that was a geospatial grant-making map that allowed us to see where our resources went, at least the past $15 million, into the sector and how we might optimize that particular support. I'm sharing this with you because I think it's very important to understand that the stance I took as a leader wasn't popular, and in many ways, it was a detour from past practices at the Forbes Funds, but in my mind, it was more of an alignment. So one of the things we did was we froze our assets the first quarter. When we came out of freezing our assets, we had realigned our organization internally. And as a result of that, we optimized our grant making by 400%. 2.5% of the world's leaders are innovators. And people like that often have a difficult time conveying to other people what they're doing and why they're doing it. The second thing I want to talk about is the unhappy voice. When you notice things that don't work as a leader. So when we noticed what didn't work or what we could do better, we pivoted. We paused and gave rise to people's voices that historically didn't always have a voice at the Forbes Funds, or we listened more deeply to those voices. Despite our metrics, people outside the organization were not comfortable with our pivot And they decided to explore other opportunities also within our institution. Some of our staff didn't agree with our pivot and they chose to pursue other professional pathways. We strongly supported that. No great leader in history has ever fought change. Change is inevitable. And so for us and for me as a leader, I embrace it. I take on all of the compliments and challenges that associate with that. Leaders must figure out how to move beyond the status quo. And so during this moment, we pivoted and increased our grant making by 400%, which allowed us to create a new program, the first of its kind, called the Catalytic Community Cohort Model, in which we've invested $1 million into 10 communities: McKees Rocks, Homewood, Braddock, Hill District, McKees Port, Hazelwood, Beltsuver, Carrick, Allentown, and Knoxville. I would call this the early majority. 34% of the world's population is comprised of people who represent the early majority. And so I want to pause and make this relevant and give you a quick story. Over the past 16 weeks, I've gained an understanding about the impact of COVID on a personal level and professional level. Sheltering in place has created real stress in my life, both personally and professionally, and how I related to that stress affected my health and well-being. I was listening to my unhappy voice. So I went to a Father's Day event, and at the event, I ran into an old friend. And you know, most of us joke about the COVID-19, referring to the 19 pounds many of us have gained over this period of time. And we talked about getting in shape. You know, we were not in this kind of shape we wanted to be in. So we started doing 10 miles a day riding, 500 push-ups, sit-ups, and pull-ups. And at the time, I weighed 225 pounds. Today, I weigh 203 pounds. And I want to speak a little bit about the journey. I had 3 bikes. And so I began to deconstruct the bike so I could create 2 very optimal bikes that I feel like could make it through this period. As a result of that, I had some extra parts. And the first day we went bike riding with my friend, his bike broke down. So we got back to my house, went to my garage. I gave him some additional parts for the bike so that we can continue riding. But I wanted, to me, that's a microcosm of when you optimize your current tools, sometimes you have leftover and spare parts. And one of the things we try to facilitate at the Force Funds is strategic collaboration, reducing duplication of efforts, and really looking at how we can help optimize the sector. The third voice is the voice of success. Nobody can accomplish great things alone, and I realized that earlier in my process at the Force Funds. Only 13.5% of the population are early adopters. And so when my board adopted 2 critical pivots within our institutional framework, their adoption of our work around the social determinants of health and our adoption of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, early funders Max King, Kenya Boswell, and Grant Oliphant made strategic investments in the Force Funds. As a result of their investments, that allowed us to partner with CCAC, the University of Pittsburgh School of Public Health, PCSI, Chatham University, the CREATE Lab, UXER, the City of Pittsburgh Mayor's Office, in which we work with the Mayor's Office to launch Pittsburgh to be becoming the 2nd U.S. city to adopt the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We partnered with the University of North Carolina. We partnered with the Cancer Free Economy Network, PACE, POISE, elected officials, and the such. What I'm sharing with you is we didn't get to this point by ourselves. It reflects a strong partnership with key stakeholders in the sector. The fourth and final voice is the voice of a higher calling. Don't let your vision be impacted by your own limits. And so for me, that pushed us to have international relationships. So we have an ongoing relationship with Nora Basin, who runs the International Basin Institute out of Sweden. Just had a 2-hour call with her on Sunday. Mark Gonzalez from Tunisia, he runs the Department of the Future. He's been on calls with us the past 2 weeks every day. Our partnership with the London School of Systems Change when I first took over allowed us to recraft our framework around a global framework and praxis that allowed us to integrate our work from the social determinants of health to the UN SDGs. And finally, a partnership with the Royal Society of Arts, Manufacturing and Commerce in a partnership with the Mayor's Office. Grant Irvin and I are facilitating and creating a fellowship in the city of Pittsburgh. And so my final story is pretty interesting. 72 hours ago, I went to the gym for the first time in 16 weeks. And in reality, I would like to hit the gym every day. But most likely I've been able to get is 2 to 3 days a week. Within the last 72 hours, I was literally dumbfounded by my losses. And I'll say my losses, where I was at 16 weeks ago to where I'm at today. I would say I've lost 75% of my strength and endurance. In February, I was doing 1,000 reps in an hour and doing 10 miles of cardio. I was benching 400 pounds, leg pressing 750 pounds for reps. 48 hours ago, I was benching 225 for 5 reps, which I've never done in my life. So I was crushed personally. And it took me 90 minutes to do 1,000 reps. And I had to pivot. I had to recognize that what I was in February, I am not going to be today. And this is a parable. As much as I know I could bench 400 pounds, at 56, the likelihood of me benching 400 pounds is long gone. I need to let go of that. It's something I did. It's something that probably no longer is relevant. And I was once ranked 13th in the country as a powerlifter. And so I still live in the past of that, and it gives me great joy. But today I'm not a powerlifter. I'm just a father of 6. And so I have to recognize my limitations. And so when you think about today's challenges and what they present to us both as reward and risk, what I've been saying for the past 16 weeks is we as a region have to pivot. In many conversations I've had with people, they talk about, I can't wait till we get back to the past, what happened in February. And I'm saying, in my experience and understanding the sector, I don't think that's coming back anytime soon. And so I gave you these stories that kind of give you a real life, real time analysis that we have to figure out how to let go of the things we cherish most and recreate the new opportunities that we have before us. And I hope this call today with Aaron brings us closer to that reality. So I want to thank you guys for listening in. I wish you guys a positive and productive week. And I look forward to hearing from Aaron Dalton at DHS. Thank you.